For over 20 years, I've been in the world of caricature. I've been drawn 100 times by other artists, and I've had thousands of people sit down in front of me to get their sketch drawn. I've been to different states and different countries to draw caricatures, and after connecting with hundreds of artists, they all get asked the same handful of questions by their guests. And now I'm gonna find out the truth. I'm Khryztof, and this is 7 Questions for a Sketch. Today we're talking to Matt Iles, also known as Doodiles. I met Matt at the Tuesday Caricature Barbecue and instantly fell in love with his energy, modesty, and constant growth. I believe that Matt has only been doing caricatures for a few years, but he really has a handle on perspective and exaggeration that I think would translate to live caricatures as well. I believe that Matt is mostly a studio artist, but he's looking to get more gigs and put himself out in the world more. He has a great personality, and I think that's something that all great live caricature artists need. Here's some fun facts about Matt. He hails from Bristol, UK. He was a finalist for the caricature category for the 2025 World Humor Awards. He was also the King of Caricon from the 2024 Caricature Convention, art director in advertising for 15 years, and he plays lawn green bowls. Let's talk to Matt and find out more. So I know that you do like 99% studio sketches, and you only mentioned doing like one live gig, right?
I've only done, to be honest, I've only done 4 proper, what I would call a proper live gig.
Okay.
But I'm very much trying to set Doodiles up now, to go pro, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting as well. So I've done a couple of street gigs within party things. I've done a big Christmas party that was a bit of a baptism of fire with my friend Ian Lloyd. And that was at Ashton Gate, and I think it was about 350 people or something like that. And it was a real, okay, well, it's happening. So there's still,
right.
And so that was, and I really, really enjoyed it. And that's why I wanted to look at it. But I think it's working out, being an enthusiastic hobbyist of caricature, how I want to be pro and make a go at this as a full-time career. Is what I find interesting, really. So,
but yeah, that was really good. We do the caricature barbecue, and it's funny. Like when I've started to like look at my life in a certain way where, like, whether I like people or I don't like people, or like just people are just like characters in my life. I mean, I try and have like as many positive characters that I interact with regularly. Some negative characters end up in there, but but like for example, like down at the where I set up, like people walk by all day, and I end up seeing like the same people over and over and over again, like the same jogger, the same guy riding his bike, the same homeless person or whatever, or like buskers or something. They have like this, I have my own little village of like kooky characters, and when it comes to the caricature barbecue, it's really interesting because we have all of these different characters that are on there, and, like you or Gavin or Mick or Jan, like everybody's like very similar, but very different, and you always have something funny to say. You have like a positive thing to say. And I'm like, this guy's a great artist. I don't think that he thinks he's as great as he is, but you always have something great to say, or like a little quip or something. And I'm like, this is the kind of thing where like Matt Iles needed to be captured on on an episode.
You got me.
And so I have these questions that I came up with for the show, and every single day I sit down, and no matter what, people ask a combination of these questions. I don't know if you've gotten these questions by.
I've got a cheat sheet in front of me just in case.
No, have people? You got the cheat sheet, yeah. But when you were drawing caricatures live in those 4 events, were people asking you a lot of questions?
Yeah, and I really struggled with, I think you often are doubting your own ability and confidence at the beginning. And I was petrified. And I think it was my friend Ian, or he recommended it, but he was right. They don't know you. So you can say, hey, I've been doing this 30 years and I'm the best artist you're ever going to meet, and for that moment, until they see the final drawing, they'll believe it. So have confidence in yourself. And I think with that in mind, and what I found particularly from the live experience, and where I get the adrenaline kick from it and I enjoy it, and I don't know if you feel the same, is that little interaction you have with somebody is almost part of the drawing, that you're creating that memory of doing the drawing with them, and you are yourself, but you are the artist. You're just a person, so you can riff with them and be playful and make funny comments and things. You've got them in quite a vulnerable spot, really, and sometimes being, speaking to them and everything like that, and making jokes. So I think you learn different things, don't you? I tried out different things. So someone, I said, I've been doing it 20 years. Someone would say, how long have you been drawing caricatures? And I'd say, I started about 20 minutes ago, which, depends on how you want to take that, isn't it?
Right.
But, partly true. But, I think a lot of it is, I believe in my own talent, and I think we all do it, whether you feel the same way. I think, once you get drawing and you're relaxed, you enjoy it a lot more. And I think it comes out in the work and the interactions with the people, really. And that's what I think is probably the main barrier. And it's probably why I sat on the fence for so long in getting out and doing live work, was I was absolutely petrified. And I did suffer from attacks from time to time. And it was, but once you're out there, do you know what I mean? It's like you got to do it, haven't you?
Yeah. So I think. What's that?
How do you find it and everything? Because obviously you're doing.
If I go back to, I've been doing caricatures. I started doing caricatures live 21 years ago, Memorial Day weekend. So in 2005, that was my first day, was Memorial Day weekend, 2005. So, when I first started, I was petrified. I had drawn before, but never like in front of people. And then once you get like a crowd of people behind you, it really like changes the way that you're doing it. If you're not confident with yourself, like you say, I credit my my caricature ability, my drawing ability, with just relentless drawing. People have this where they ask me, they're like, wow, I wish I was that talented, or have you always been so talented? And I think to myself, like, absolutely not. I don't know why I have the ability to draw caricatures. I don't know how it has been the way that the caricature gods have bestowed what I could do on me. Because 20 years ago, I always tell the story where I was the worst caricature artist out of the training group that I did, and I'm probably the only one still drawing caricatures. And it's like I still remember, like, the first couple of days, you go out there and my hand is shaking, and we're expected to draw very quickly. We're at I'm at a booth with like two other artists that are experienced. And so you're trying to draw, I'm trying to draw like an eye, right? And my hand is like shaking like this on the eyelid, or I'm trying to do like, get this definitive stroke, like these quick strokes, and my hand's going like this, and so just not being able to be familiar with the tools was really difficult for me. And so I would draw next to artists that wouldn't talk the whole time, would just draw, and the people were oohing and eyeing, like, look at this guy, he's so great at doing these sketches. And then I'm over here like hunched over, super close, like trying to get that eyelid, just trying to get the eyelid to go above and not make it like intersect with the eye, and just trying to familiarize myself with the drawing process itself. And what I found made me most comfortable was having a chat with the people. I started coming up with my own questions, and so that would make me feel calmer. Puts them on the spot. I'm not great at drawing 3/4 angle views. So if I get the person talking to me, looking straight at me, then I can make this symmetrical face, do it like basically I mean, some people like some caricature artists will have disdain for the symmetrical face. And they're like, well, you're not pushing and pulling, you're just creating a stamp. And I look at it more of a perspective of like, I'm trying to create my best work and be comfortable and create the best possible product for the client. And if in the moment, the easiest way for me to do that quickly is to do it, symmetrically, then, that's what I'm trying to offer.
I think it's really interesting. I find it really interesting, like when you're saying with the drawing there, because it's when you meet someone and you start interacting with them. I obviously find that really exciting. I enjoy talking to people, and I tend to sometimes I forget, oh, I'm supposed to be drawing, aren't I? You know what I mean? And you start drawing,
Right.
But you get more out of you. Not only are you asking them as an artist to try and get something into the picture, which is something that I try and do, and going forward, I'm trying to do more in that you can catch a character in many ways, and they're communicating all the time, and their energy, positive or negative, is going to come onto you, and it's going to go into the picture. Do you know what I mean? Whether you feel more comfortable to give them that big nose that they've got, or whether you can already read it in their eyes that they're petrified that you're going to give them that big nose. You know, shall I, how far can I push that? Not to be mean, but sometimes it's, I think that's where I find it really interesting, and where we're all different as artists, in that, and why caricature is so great is that the picture is going to communicate much more than just their physical features, really. And it's what we get out of it in those few moments with them. And that's what I find quite exciting. And I'm a complete perfectionist, and that's one of my crosses to bear, so to speak. And I always get hung up, and I start redoing drawings, and that's not good enough, and things like that. And where you can't escape with that is with the live work. Do you know what I mean? You can't make them sit there for 4 hours. They're not going to do it. So it's getting across, and I think there's several different ways that you can do that, can't you? Something I'm trying to do now is be much more prudent with my use of lines, and where even a couple of years ago, I think I would put a lot more lines and details in. You can actually, if you take a moment and refrain that, you can make things a lot more striking and engaging with less work and with less lines, if you just take a moment to think about the structure and things. And as you say, that just comes from practice, I think. That's what I put that down to.
How long have you been doing caricatures?
Well, I've always drawn caricatures as a kid, which is really funny. I won't go all the way back to the beginning of time.
Right.
But, even when I was sort of in my early teens and everything, I remember my parents having a house party, and I did a caricature for them of Margaret Thatcher, who'd just been re-elected into government, and it was on a 5-foot Maggie Thatcher. And I was only about 10 or 11 when I was drawing that. So I've always been a huge fan of kind of caricature and satire, Spitting Image, Gerald Scarfe, people like that.
Right.
And then I worked as in graphic design and as an art director, but I've always sort of carried on my drawing and things. And in lockdown, I discovered ISCA and sort of the barbecue, as we call it, online, and people like Jan Beek and things like this. And a huge shout out to all those guys. And it was great to see these other people out there, and were a real inspiration. So since then, I was drawing, and I realized that there was this kind of industry, this community, that you could go out and do that. And In the UK, we've got something called Caricon, which is like a mini ISCACon, if you like, which is only a couple of days, but everyone in the UK and in Europe kind of come over and we meet up at the end of the year. And the only government my bragging rights, a couple of years ago, I was very honoured to win the event, even though it's not a big thing as the same size of ISCACon. They have a king or queen of Caricon, which I won, and I was really honored to do that, and particularly because I was only sort of a hobbyist. So at that time in my career, I was like, well, look, now's the time. If I want to do something, I should really try and do it. And so since then, I've been doing sort of commissions and things like that. And this year, I've been trying to get into look at doing live gigs, and then equally as well work. I don't know what it's like with you in the States, but a lot of people want to be creative now, and I think that there's an avenue for expression through caricature in that as well. So I'm trying to promote that as well. So yeah, it's all my life / a couple of years.
All your life / a couple of years.
I've always enjoyed drawing though, and I've always enjoyed doing cartoons. When I was a kid, I used to make little comic books and come up with characters. And caricature was always one of those things I found kind of feeds into that and things. And I think why I like trying to do caricatures with an idea behind it, not only from my advertising background, but it's that idea of a cartoon and a narrative, and like I say, things like Gerald Scarfe making his comments with quite, crass sometimes, but that's quite fun, really. And the idea of putting someone in that shot is what brought me to caricature that way. But yeah.
So, is this your real job or is it just a hobby?
Yeah, I mean, it is now. I'm one of those classics where I've been sat on the fence, but everyone that knows me, I've been sat on the fence for quite some time. So yeah, it's Doodiles is doodiles.com. Got to get the ad in there, haven't I? That's my website. And yeah, going forward, I'm really pushing to do more in the Bristol area in the southwest of England. But I just want to get out and about, really. I say caricature. There's so many amazing avenues and artists out there, and just to really get involved with the whole community a bit more and get caricature out there really is what I want to do in the next couple of years. So it's all going well. Yeah.
So do you do any other art?
No. As I said, I used to do. I mean, I still keep my hand in on the advertising and branding and creative front.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of been happening. So that's kind of artistic in a way, but nothing else really. It's in terms of, I think in the last couple of years, I've thought, I've really been practicing and kind of swap up on my brush pens and my Procreate basically. So all my artistic time into that. But yeah. How about you? Have you ever done stuff like that? Other art stuff, or has it always been caricature?
Well, people ask me about caricatures when I'm doing caricatures. That's a regular question I get. They say, "Do you do any other kinds of art?" And for me, I do think that it's kind of important to dabble in a lot of different things. I found that when I was doing caricatures at a theme park, I was exclusively doing caricatures, right? So I would wake up and I was drawing caricatures from the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep, basically. And you kind of get locked into doing things a specific way, right? So it kind of limits your, like, if we're capable of using 100% of our brain and then 10% is only caricatures, like the other 90% of our brain is like becoming mush, to a certain extent, So what I was doing was, I was like, I'm not a real artist. I'm only doing caricatures. So what I did was I had gotten into like a crossroads where I was like, I'm going to get out my acrylic paints and my oil paints, and I'm going to paint something that's not caricatures at all. So I started to do that. And then when I started doing marketing, and doing more digital, marketing materials and stuff like that, I really was pulled away from doing anything artistic, which made me really rusty at doing caricatures. It made me rusty at all the different things of art I was doing. Then I started doing caricatures again, and when I started doing caricatures professionally as like my full-time job, I was like, I want to get back to doing these other things. So I crack open my little tackle box full of oil paints, and I got out some canvases, and I was like trying to do the same thing that I had done, 15 years prior. And it was like the magic was gone. Like I couldn't create the same way that I was able to in the past. And, you know, I guess it was like the aughts, I guess that's what they call them. I was taking figure drawing classes while doing caricatures, and I was able to do the figure significantly better because I trained my brain to see things a certain way, to be very confident with my line strokes. I mean, I think that that's like a big thing, is like being confident with your line strokes. I would draw, a person's contours, and I would be able to do it smoothly because I had trained my brain and my hand to do these certain things. And then about 2 months ago, I went to a figure drawing session in San Diego, and it was just at the rec center. I went to the rec center. You pay like $10, and you draw a model for 3 hours. So I go in there, and there's people of all ages, like it's college students or it's like people that are retired, and some of the people are in there, and they're like, they're like literal masters of drawing the figure, but they're in this little thing here, and you're like going in there and you're like, I haven't drawn anybody live like this in the figure in 15 years. And it's just like, it's like learning to walk again, but I try and dabble in music and video and whatnot.
Great stuff.
So, some of your caricatures are grossly exaggerated. Have you had people get mad at you when they see your sketch?
No, I mean, luckily enough, as I said, the limited live experience, I've always been a bit more conservative. I think it's funny as well because there are so many artists that really push the boats out there on things, and I think I've done a little bit more on the studio work that I've done, but it's it's in terms of trying to go pro and everything. I've got this whole my sort of mantra or brand is that each one of us is an original. Let's celebrate it. So anything that I do exaggerate, hopefully, is sort of a positivity rather than a negative thing. And
Right.
and it is funny when you sometimes you're going to get that look, don't you? Sometimes even before the drawing's been handed over. That's the one thing I learned. But that when you hand it over, it's sometimes you just got to laugh it off yourself. And,
Right.
But no, I think it's usually no bad reports to comment on. Luckily,
Yeah. No fights, no fist
you
fights.
can. I think the nicest thing is when the opposite is when they really do like it. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And that can make you blush a little bit, but in a good way. It's when somebody really is happy with the drawing and things, particularly if you have pushed it that little bit
Yeah.
more. Do you know what I mean? And they understand it's not, it's not a photograph. It's a caricature. It's supposed to be fun. It's a cartoon, if you like.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I've got away unscathed. I know I'll probably cross the line at some point and things. It's much more fun, isn't it? I think when you're drawing with other artists, to say at Caricon, you've got 70 caricature artists in a room for a day, all drawing each other. So you can imagine what that's like, and
Yeah.
and the fact that we all know each other, we can be quite mean, and that can be quite sad sometimes. And that's where everyone lets their hair down. You know what I mean? And yeah, some funny pictures to come out of that, really. But
Well, I think
I don't have the balls to do that yet on the public.
Well, I think that I've talked to other people, other artists and stuff like that. And what I really appreciate is the idea that the guest or the client gives you permission to push things to your absolute limits and, roast them or, beast them or whatever. And that's when you get those really great reactions, I think. I think that when people like know that they're being roasted, but they don't know exactly what is going to happen, I think that's where the big reaction comes from. And I like the idea of the anticipation, that's another thing, but it is really funny.
Yeah.
People, you always, sometimes you end up getting people that just don't expect certain things, or they're like, they expect a portrait, and then you draw them with a big nose or something like that. And they're like, oh, how dare you do that? Or, they have like a gap in their teeth or something like that. Or they have, kind of like buck teeth or something like that. And they're like, I can't believe you drew me that way, and then sometimes they have a good laugh about it. So, but I like your perspective, cause it's all fun. We're trying to have fun, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, as I said, and there's so many techniques out there now. Do you know what I mean? If they do want a photo or something like that, I think that's what I try and realize is that we're the unknown entity in it. As the artist, it's your take on that person in that moment, and that's quite fun, really. And if we can do it, that's what it's there for. I found it my first ever proper live gig a few years back was like a business event. And
Yeah.
again, I was absolutely wrecking it. And although I was used to in a set-up environment in terms of either on an easel or something, I was free roaming, which I'm getting better at, but I wasn't good at. And luckily at this business event, I bumped into somebody I knew, and he was known for his quite vibrant shirts, and he had a perm. So
Yeah.
to be honest, he was my life raft, and I completely assassinated him, purely because I knew the guy, which was a bit harsh.
Yeah.
But that relaxed me and everything like that, and it's kind of getting it out the way. And then people, I think, stand back because they think, oh, is he going to do the same to me? But I was probably nice to everybody else.
Yeah. So you mentioned Margaret Thatcher. Have you drawn anyone famous?
Oh, well, no, and sadly, not really. I not live. I love, as I said, I went through a period of just drawing Boris Johnson all the time. And I like drawing. I think I draw more famous people because I like doing this, trying to do the satire stuff. And it's also when you're drawing, particularly for the digital stage and putting it out on things like Instagram, it's someone that people will know.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? But and you can make jokes then, more in jokes about people that how people have an experience of or have an opinion of. So I have worried, actually, having never been to America, the number of Trumps I've drawn. That if you are not letting people in, I'm probably going to make that list if they do. They look at my Instagram. But,
I know they're gonna stop you at the border.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. No. I think it's one of those things that getting out there and have you drawn many famous names and faces?
That's fun. It's funny because people ask me that question every day. They say, "Have you ever drawn anybody famous?" And it's really in America. Well, I mean, in this world, you could have 1 million subscribers or followers or something like that, and you're viral, and that can make you famous, right? But if I haven't seen the famousness, then I might not even know who you are. And it's funny because people have come up to me and sat down, and they look like normal people, or they're like super tall. And I'm like, he must be a professional basketball player, or he must be a professional football player, because he's like massive, And then they're like, no, I'm just like an accountant, or I played a little basketball in college or something. So it's like you try and guess like these people's level of celebrity. and you always get it wrong. You're just like, oh, okay, well, I don't know. But I've drawn a few people here and there where it's like, moderate fame, maybe famous to somebody, but mostly just stuff on Instagram. So the question 7, this is the last question. And
Okay.
And then we could just freeform for the next 7 minutes, 6.5 minutes.
7 minutes.
The last question is, what is the craziest caricature that you have ever drawn, or the craziest caricature experience that you've had?
Oh dear, I should have prepped this one and I haven't, which is probably going to take the 7 minutes, isn't it? I think from a live point of view, I mean, there's so many little nuggets. So there's not been anything too out there crazy. But when I did a friend, there was a street party in Bristol, and I was invited to draw for charity there. And so it was again, baptism of fire, but it was the first time I really got out there with the pens, made up all my crayons. I bought a really lovely, I was going to put it up, but it still falls down, the French easel, and I was almost the comic relief at the beginnings. It took me about 10 minutes getting the French easel to stand up properly. But it was that whole experience of drawing people. And at the beginning, because it was a street party, I think all the parents decided that any entertainment in the street was the creche, because for the first hour, I ended up as almost a children's climbing frame with all these kids, being careful not to upset any of them because they'll go crying to their parents. And a few funny stories. I remember the young Lovey, I think they must have been about 9 years old. There was a girl who was playing off against these two boys, and she selected to have a caricature drawn with this one boy.
Yeah.
And the rejected boy was close to tears, bless him. And
oh no.
And being, a failure in love myself, I really felt sorry for him. So I leant over to him behind the easel and I said, shall I give him big ears? About the other guy. And he was like, yeah. So it was just like complete character assassination of a 9-year-old. But I
love that story.
Little moments like that, I think you never forget, do you, as an artist? And yeah. So little stories like that, I think, are good fun, really. But yeah. How about yourself?
Oh, well, I always say, there's always drunk dudes that want to have something ridiculous. And I did do this one where these guys, they wanted to be male strippers and be super buff, have a G-string with a big thing coming out of it. And then have a bunch of women around them. And that's one thing. I mean, I had this one drawing that I did where it was a guy and his girlfriend, and he was a pimp and she was a prostitute, and he wanted me to give her a black eye or something like that. Him and his girlfriend.
Well, they actually were, but okay.
Yeah, they were I don't know. I don't remember exactly their true relationship, but it was something to that effect, But I've had people say, hey, will you come and do a nudist party, or will you do an orgy or something? So we got 2 minutes left to wrap up. So do you want to do you want to plug anything? Is there anything you got planned for the future as far as caricatures go? And tell us where to find you.
Tell us where to find it and my handles. So I'm Doodiles, which is a play on my surname, if anybody wants to know, because it's Doodiles, ILES. Anyway, explaining it means I've failed, doesn't it? But yeah, it's Doodiles. So you can find me on Instagram and at doodiles.com. And I'm doing commissions. So if you fancy a commission, give us a shout. And setting up live events in the southwest of England, really. And so exciting times. And equally, if you're in the UK and Europe, we'll have to get you back across the pond to this one. We've got Caricon coming up later this year.
I have to get to a Caricon at some point.
And,
sorry, I talked over you. What'd you say?
No, I was going to say, yeah, come over to this year. It's in Glasgow. I don't know the dates. Sorry, chaps, for letting me down there. I think it's October the 7th. I could be wrong. And yeah, that means around the UK. So this year we're going to be in Glasgow. It's a big meetup, and it'd be great to see everyone. So yeah.
All right, man. Thanks for being on the show. And
thanks for the invite, man. It's been wonderful talking to you, and yeah, look forward to drawing you with you again soon.
Yeah, I'll see you at the Caricature Barbecue. All right.
Great. Cheers, buddy.
All right. Cheers. So it was great talking to Matt today. If you're looking for somebody in Bristol to do caricatures for your event, look up Doodiles, give him a call, check out his work. It's incredible. So now's the time on the show where we do our great reveal. The time-lapse video. Matt drew me, I drew Matt. This is the video. Check it out, and I'll see you next time. All right, goodbye.